The Fitnessgram Pacer Test is a multi-stage aerobic capacity test that progressively gets more difficult as it continues. The 20-meter pacer test will begin in 30 seconds. Line up at the start. The running speed starts slowly, but gets faster each minute after you hear this signal. A single lap should be completed each time you hear this sound. Remember to run in a straight line, and run as long as possible. Your test is over.
Wow, listen to that song. Isn't that one of the coolest things you've heard in a long time? That is really cool. That song might sound familiar to a lot of you. That is the Fitnessgram Pacer Test, remixed by a very talented DJ / EDM artist named Oddly, Oddly. You can follow him on Instagram, Spotify. Pretty sure he's on TikTok as well. I've been using that song as my entrance, my walk-up music for comedy shows on the Board Teachers comedy tour and also my own shows. Anytime they ask me, do you have a preference for walk-up music? I'm like, yes. Pull out your phone, pull up Spotify, look him up, Oddly. And when I wanted to start this podcast, I hit him up on Instagram. I was like, hey, I really want to use your song on my podcast. What do I need to do to license it? Because I want you to be compensated. And he was excited. He was like, I'm not going to charge you anything. And I think because it's a perfect match. I mean, come on. It's a match made in heaven. That song was basically, I don't know if he knew he was mixing that song for me when he produced it, but I think he totally was. I think it's perfect. So thank you to him. Go give him a follow. Add that song to your playlist. All right. Now, I'm a hot mess. I'm a train wreck. First of all, okay, this is the Gym Class Podcast. It's the debut episode. All right. Thank you for listening. My name's Tom Feline, also known as the Angry Gym Teacher. And here's why I'm a train wreck, because I recorded a 45-minute episode yesterday. And the whole time I'm sitting in my office, I'm recording, I'm getting some good stuff, some good riffs, some good jokes. And then I get home, I pull up the video, and there's no sound. There's no sound. Guys, the microphone wasn't working. Okay, the microphone wasn't working. I sat in an empty room and talked to myself for 45 minutes. Okay, and you know how long it took me to get going on this thing? I've been putting this off for months, not because I don't want to do it. I've wanted to start a podcast for a long time. Last year, I made the decision. I'm going to do it. I'm going to start the Gym Class Podcast. I love podcasts. I've always wanted to have my own. Okay, I've got things I need to say, things I need to get off my chest that are not suited for the short form content that I normally make. I've gotten really good at making short little, 30-second, 1 minute, 2 minute long videos on TikTok and Instagram, but I need more long form stuff. I got more stuff I need to say. All right. But I've been putting it off because I'm such a procrastinator. I'm really good at coming up with excuses. And my excuses thus far have been, I don't have space. Okay, my house is very crowded. Now, don't get me wrong. I got a nice house, very blessed. Okay, we got a nice single-family home in the Chicago suburbs. But I've got twin 7-year-old boys. They take up, they're so small, but they take up so much space. And if you're a parent of young children, you know what I'm talking about. Their stuff is everywhere. They're so loud. I love them, but they're so loud. And this summer, we got a puppy. He's 20 pounds. He takes up so much space. He's so loud. Okay, so my house is I don't have anywhere quiet to go. So all summer would have been the perfect time to start recording. But all summer, I use that as an excuse. Like, I can't find space. And then time, I don't have time. I'm working a full-time teaching job still. That's something that, you might not know about me. A lot of people assume just because I've got this Instagram and TikTok following and I've got these pages going and I'm doing the occasional, brand deals and comedy shows, people assume that I must not be teaching anymore. No, I'm still teaching. Still teaching full-time because I need the insurance. I can't afford to quit teaching. And I don't really want to quit teaching. And I'm going to get into that more later. Because this episode's all about me. It's all about me telling my story. If you've ever been curious about how I became the Angry Gym Teacher, this episode is for you. So thanks for tuning in. It's finally here. I've got my notes for what I wanted to talk about. And again, I talked about it all yesterday, but I was talking into a void. That was all it's all scraps. Now I got to do it all over again. And it's probably good because I was nervous yesterday. I don't know why I was nervous. I'm sitting in a room talking to myself. I shouldn't be nervous, but I'm nervous because this is a big deal to me. I've always wanted to have a podcast. I love podcasts myself. I want it to be good. I want it to create new avenues for me. I would love to meet new people, have them tell their story on here. I want to talk to other phys ed teachers. I want to talk to other comedians. I want to talk to other teachers in general, other content creators. I have a lot of ideas for who I want to invite on here. I am going to have guests. I've already got some other PE teachers have hit me up like, hey, can I come on your podcast? I really want to join you. And the answer is yes. Eventually, I got to figure out formats and stuff. I'm going to be doing like one-on-one guest interviews, but I also want to do like round tables with other teachers. It's going to be fun. That's what I'm trying to say. Bottom line, the Gym Class Podcast is going to be fun. It's going to be funny, but also educational. It's basically going to be my page, The Angry Gym Teacher, in long form podcast format. And I am going to be posting these episodes on YouTube so you can watch the video. Also going to be releasing them on Spotify, Apple, audio, whatever you listen to your podcasts on. So I don't know if I'll release this episode on YouTube because I might just do audio. I don't know. We'll see. It's just me. Like, why do I need a video? I don't know. All right. So, who am I? My name's Tom. Hi. Thank you for tuning in. If you're tuning in, it's probably because you already follow me as the Angry Gym Teacher on social media. So thank you for tuning in. Please let me know what you think. By the end of this episode, email address is gymclasspod@gmail.com. So you can give me feedback there. You can give me suggestions, tips. What do you think about the episode? Was there something I said that resonated with you? Was there something I said that you hated? Are you like tempted to just disavow me and unfollow me and you hate me now because of something I said? I don't know what that would be, but I'm just kidding. I know exactly what it would be. No. I'm not going to start drama in the first episode. Okay. So I am a physical education teacher first and foremost. I'm a PE teacher. I love being a PE teacher. But I'm also a comedian and a content creator / influencer. I don't like those terms because they're so generic. Like, what does that really even mean? But there's no better term, I guess. I don't know what else to call myself. What do you call us? I'm not an actor. I like acting, but I only act in my own little sketches that I write myself on YouTube and TikTok. So I can't really call myself an actor. I'm a content creator, influencer. I used to joke on stage about how I have no idea how I became a teacher because here's the thing, y'all. I hated school. When I was a kid, I hated school. I was the little kid in first, second grade who cried because they didn't want to go to school. I wanted to stay at home with my parents, with my family. I couldn't wait for school to end. I looked forward to summer. I looked forward to my breaks. Couldn't wait for it to be over. And I dreaded when I had to go back to school. But I didn't really know what I wanted to be. As a kid, I remember I wanted to be an actor. I've always been interested in performing arts. I think I went through a phase where I wanted to be a professional basketball player, which is kind of a joke. That's really funny to think about because basketball is my Achilles heel. Basketball's like I love watching it. I love teaching it. I hate playing it. I'm so bad, guys. I'm so bad at basketball. But I didn't really, other than that, I don't know what I wanted to do. But I had my first thought of maybe I want to be a teacher. That thought first came to me when I was in high school, which is kind of funny because I hated high school. I did not have a good high school experience. I went to public school, kindergarten through 8th grade, and I had my friends. I had my friends who I was comfortable with. I was kind of part of like the nerdy group, was not very athletic as a child. I played a little soccer when I was a kid. That's about it. A little basketball too. I think that's why I wanted to be an NBA player. But just I was a member of the nerds. We love Star Wars. We love Star Trek. And we love playing video games. Oh my God, loved video games. So when I went to high school though, I transferred to a private school. It was a religious school, evangelical school down the street from my house. It was not by choice. I went there. I was basically destined. I was chosen to go there. My father went there. His siblings went there. They all graduated from this school. And we lived right around the corner from it. So, ever since I was a young kid, I knew I was going to this school. I was going to public school through 8th grade, but then when it was time for high school, this was going to be my high school. And when it finally came time to go there, I was not happy about it. I had to leave all my friends. I didn't know anybody at this new school. And when I was 14, when I was a freshman, that was like my most awkward, introverted, socially awkward point in my life. So I really struggled to make friends. I was really having a hard time at this school. Didn't really, to this day, I'm not really in touch with anybody from my graduating class. Was not a good experience, but here's the thing. I had a handful of really good teachers at this school. Not all of them. Not all of them were good. This was a private school. Some of them were not certified. They had no business teaching adolescents, but there was a handful of really good ones. One in particular was my Bible teacher. I was required to take Bible classes at this school. And I remember being a freshman sitting in her class, waiting for it to start. And I must have had this look on my face that I was just, miserable. I was in my head. And she came over to me and she put her hand on my shoulder and was like, "How are you? Are you doing okay? Are you nervous? Are you making friends? Do you know people? Are people being nice to you?" And that was the first time that a teacher had done that for me. Made that like personal connection, showed that they really cared about me as a person. Not that I didn't have good teachers in middle school. I just never had that connection before. And there was another teacher there, my English teacher, my sophomore year. He was this very charismatic, very passionate, goofy guy, wore a bow tie every day. And I remember he did a Shakespeare unit. Now, I had never been interested in Shakespeare. I'd always kind of struggled with reading. So reading Shakespeare in that old English format was not something I ever even considered. But he was so passionate about Shakespeare. I think it was Romeo and Juliet, I think, like the most basic Shakespeare, most well-known. He was so passionate about it that it was contagious. I became passionate about Shakespeare, so much so that when that class ended, I opted to take his elective, Shakespeare. I took a whole class on Shakespeare. I learned all these other Shakespeare plays because of him, because of his passion, because it was contagious. I had another teacher who was my drama teacher. This school had a good theater program. And like I said, I've always been interested in acting and performing. I took this drama class, and this drama teacher took me aside one day, and she was like, "Have you ever considered doing improv?" And I was like, "No, you have to audition for that. That's scary. I don't want to do that. Why would I want to audition?" But she's like, "No, I think you might have some talent because I think you're funny. And I think it's something you should really consider." So she encouraged me to audition for the improv team, and I did it. I got in the improv. That's how I started doing comedy. And so these experiences with these amazing teachers got me thinking, like, I want to do this. I want to do what they're doing. I want to make an impact on the next generation, kind of like how they're making an impact on me, because they're really helping me build confidence. I want to do that. And I started picturing myself in their shoes. But here's the thing. I've always struggled with reading and math because I have ADHD. I was diagnosed as a young kid. I call it a soft diagnosis because, I remember sitting in the doctor's office and the doctor being like, he probably has this new thing called ADD. And there's medications you can take, but they're kind of strong. They're kind of serious. So here's some other things you can do in the meantime just to help him. You can give him rewards when he completes his homework. So that's what my parents did. They opted for that route. So I just kind of struggled with my ADHD all through middle school, high school. And I thought to myself, well, I guess I can't be a teacher because I hate math. I'm not good at math. Math scares me. To this day, when I start crunching numbers, I look like a deer in headlights. I reach for my calculator for the most basic things. I hate math. And when it comes to reading, like, I'm not bad at reading. My reading comprehension is fine, and I'm actually pretty good at writing. I'm a great writer. I pride myself in that. That's one thing I feel confident about. But it takes a lot of energy for me to read. I've got a book at home on my nightstand that I've been nursing that thing 2-3 pages at a time for over a year now. I mean, it takes me forever to sit down and read. So because I have this aversion to reading and writing, I guess I just decided when I graduated, I can't be a teacher because teaching is reading and writing and math. That's what it's all about. There's science, but science is basically just math with pictures. There's a lot of math in science. So I guess I gave up on that idea. And when I went to college, I decided I was going to be a professional wrestler. Whoa, this is taking a turn. What? Where did that come from? Here's the thing. I was a huge wrestling fan in high school. Wasn't allowed to watch it, before high school. When I was a kid, my parents really policed pretty heavily what we watched on TV. We're not in the 90s, y'all. I don't know if you know anything about wrestling in the 90s, the Attitude Era, WWF. That was not a kid friendly. Oh my gosh, there was middle fingers and Stone Cold Steve Austin chugging beer, and there was blood and boobs all over, women in lingerie hitting each other with pillows. It was not a kid friendly time. So my parents were like, heck no, you're not watching this. But then in high school, they kind of stopped policing it so heavily, and instantly my brother and I became obsessed. More so my brother. He's the one that really got me into it. My brother's younger. I'm going to reference him a lot. He's younger than me. He's 2 years younger, but he had a really big influence on me. Normally the older brother influences the younger brother. It was kind of the other way around. He got me into wrestling, and I became obsessed. So obsessed that when I was a senior in high school, I was doing improv. Says reconnecting. I'm going to wait until... Okay, connection established. Hopefully, I'm still recording here. I don't have a good internet connection where I'm sitting. I'm not going to tell you where I'm sitting because it's a secret. It's a virtual studio, y'all. I could be anywhere. I could be in your backyard right now. Does that creep you out? Wrestling. So I was so obsessed with wrestling as my senior year in high school, so much so that I got it in my head that I want to do that. I'm already doing improv. I'm a performer. I know how to perform. I know how to act. I'm not that athletic, but this is a performance art, and I want to do it. I got to try it because it looks like so much fun to go out to the ring and have this audience in the palm of your hand and listen to them going crazy and cheering for you and chanting your name. When the music hits, that energy, I got to get a piece of that. So I decided I was going to be a pro wrestler, and I went to my dad, and my dad had this money put away for me for college already from just as I was growing up. He was putting money. My dad's always been really good with money, and I had very wealthy grandparents. My grandfather on my dad's side was VP of Sears marketing. He was in charge of the Sears catalog, which was basically like Amazon in the 60s. And he was like, I'll pay for you to go to wrestling school if you promise me that you're also going to go to college, because that was a non-negotiable. I was always going to go to college. And my dad was like, I don't just want you to get a bachelor's. I want you to get a master's degree. I told my second grade teachers when we talked about what do you want to be when you grow up. I remember in second grade writing, I want to get a master's degree. And my teacher was like, in what? I was like, in masters. I want to be a master. I didn't know what that was, but I knew that I wanted to get a master's degree. So I was like, deal, that's fine. I'll find a college to go to, and I'll go to wrestling school at night. And I did. And I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. And I attended this Bible college. I was going to be a youth pastor, I think. I figured the Bible college, that's gonna set my dad's mind at ease. Because I'm going to study Bible while I'm training to be a wrestler. And about 20 minutes from this college, there was this wrestling school called WWA4. Now, the building that this wrestling school was located in was the old WCW power plant. WCW had shut down by this point, but the building was sold to a private, investor. This place had 3 wrestling rings in it. It had a weight training room. It had a trainer who was a former WWF performer, Curtis Hughes, Mr. Hughes, Curtis the Big Cat Hughes. He feuded with The Undertaker in like the 80s. And so I enrolled in this school, and for 1 semester, I attended college classes during the day, and I trained at night. I would come home to my dorm covered in sweat, wearing my knee pads, with my bleached hair. I felt like such a rock star walking into my dorm hall. People would see me walking out. Well, where did that guy come from? Oh, no big deal. I was just training to be a pro wrestler. You can come see me this weekend. We're putting on a show. And I did that for a semester. And then after that semester, I transferred to community college back home. I decided I wasn't really feeling the whole biblical studies path. I wasn't really feeling it at my school. Didn't really like the classes. So I'm like, I'm feeling too much pressure. I'm like a sophomore. I'm like, listen, I just want to go to community college, get those classes done so I can make up my mind about what I want my degree to ultimately be in. And I started wrestling in the indie circuit in the Chicago area. I was wrestling on the weekends, doing these shows, and I got pretty good at it. Like I said, I've never been a strong athlete, but I did get to the point where I had titles. I was NWA Midwest Tag Team Champion. I was the NAWF, which is a very small organization in Wisconsin. I was the heavyweight champion for them. I got to take these belts home. It was super cool. I got this professional looking gear, and I started lifting weights. Of course, as a wrestler, you got to look good. You got to be buff. You got to fill out a pair of tights. And my brother was the one, again, he was the one who influenced me, got me into weightlifting. He was like, if you're going to be a wrestler, you have to look like a wrestler, and you're skinny, you're flabby, you don't look like a wrestler. So let me teach you how to lift. So he taught me how to lift, and I started going to the gym every day, got super addicted to that. Got super addicted to that whole scene, that whole culture. I was into bodybuilding, and I had it in my head I was going to do a bodybuilding show someday. Like, I was really into it. I was eating protein, drinking protein shakes, pre-workouts, supplements, the whole 9 yards, all of it. I was addicted. And so at that point, I was like, oh, I think I want to do this. I'm already doing this. I'm already training. I want to train other people. I think I'm going to be a personal trainer. I'm going to work in exercise, in the exercise field. So I enrolled at Illinois State University, which happens to be a great school for teachers. I didn't know that at the time. I was just like, I had an exercise science program. It was only 2 hours from home. I was like, that's the perfect distance. That's where I'm going to go. I'm going to be a Redbird. And while I was there, I was sitting in a meeting with a guidance counselor talking about, my degree path. And she mentioned teaching. And I was like, well, I always wanted to be a teacher. I've always wanted to be a teacher, but what would I teach? And she's like, well, you're in exercise science. We would have to move you over to the physical education, teacher education path, which would be a little bit longer, more credit hours, a little bit more work, but that's a path for you if you want to teach. And the light bulb went off. I was like, oh, I do like fitness and health and wellness. I like learning about the human body. I can teach that. Finally, I have something that I can teach. I can be a teacher. I don't have to be focused on reading and math. I can be a PE teacher. So that was when I decided I was going to be a PE teacher. So I'm studying to be a teacher at Illinois State University, and I'm still wrestling at the time. I'm working the indie circuit, taking my classes down in Normal. I'm traveling back home to wrestle on a lot of the weekends, and I started getting burnt out with wrestling. Wrestling was hard. I was having fun, but at the same time, I was in a lot of pain. People were pushing me to do drugs, do steroids, because I wasn't that big. I'm 5'10", and to be successful in wrestling, you really got to be over 6 feet tall or gigantic, really buff. And for me, that meant I had to get on some gear, as they called it, steroids. That was still very common back then. I think it's probably still common today, but I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to lose my hair. I didn't want to deal with the health problems later on down the road. I just didn't want to do that. And I also wasn't super athletic. So when you're a wrestler my size, very average size, you can either get real big, real swole, real buff, or you can be what they call a high flyer, which is somebody who does a lot of stunts, a lot of backflips, takes a lot of risks, dives off the top rope. I did those occasionally, and I still have back problems to this day. I just wasn't that athletic. I couldn't be doing all these flips and stuff. I didn't have it in me. And I remember one match in particular, it was up in Wisconsin, and I'm sitting on the top rope, and I took an enziguri kick to the head. If you're a wrestling fan, you know an enziguri is a kick to the head. Here's the secret. You actually get kicked in the trap muscle right here, like in the corner of your neck. That's where the impact is. It looks like you got kicked in the head. But here's the thing. The guy who did it to me, he was off by like an inch, and he actually caught me right in the jaw. And as I'm sitting up there on the top rope, I knew it was coming. But of course, he was supposed to kick me in the trap. But he caught me in the jaw. As I'm sitting there, I remember the room started spinning. I remember the spinning, and I remember laying on the mat and feeling sand in my mouth. There's sand in my mouth. Why is there sand in my mouth? Next thing I know, I'm backstage. And I blacked out. This is something that happens in wrestling. If you get your bell rung, you can still finish your match. But it's like unconscious. You're not there mentally. You finish. You go through with the rest of the choreography. You come to backstage at some point. And I remember sitting back there. The guy who I was wrestling was talking to me. He's like, "Are you okay, dude? You okay? You don't look so good." And I looked at him and I went, "What happened? Did we finish the match?" And he goes, "Oh my God, you mean you don't remember?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Well, yeah, we finished the match. I think I caught you on the jaw. Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I'm okay, but I don't remember." And I'm feeling around inside my mouth, and I realize half of my tooth is gone. One of my molars in the back of my mouth, he cracked it, shattered it. And that was the sand in my mouth. That was pieces of my teeth. So I'm spitting out these little tiny chunks of my tooth. I'm feeling around, realizing that half my tooth is gone. I've got a headache. I go home with my $20 in cash and my hot dog, because that's what I made at these shows. Not a lot of money in the indie circuit and wrestling. And I started thinking to myself, I need a break from this. I can't, because here's the thing, I'm missing out on fun times in college. My friends are hanging out on the weekends. They're going out, they're partying, making connections, and I'm traveling all over, beating myself up for $20. So I decided I'm going to take a break from wrestling. And I finished college, got my degree, had a blast, by the way. Student teaching for me was when I really found myself as a teacher. I really fell in love with being a PE teacher as a student teacher. I got into my groove, and I realized, like, this is it for me. This is what I want to do professionally, at least. Still wanted to do something creative, but wrestling wasn't working out. So I took a break from that, which ultimately ended up being a permanent break. But I started feeling like I graduated, I got a job, I got married, settled down a little bit, and just kind of started feeling antsy because I had lost my creative outlet. I didn't really want to go back into wrestling. My wife really didn't want me to go back into wrestling. She's like, I don't want to be married to somebody who's beating themselves up like that all the time. Like, it's not healthy. She realized it's not healthy for you. But I needed a creative outlet. And again, my brother, who's 2 years younger than me, my younger brother, he did improv in high school just like me. And in college, he got back into improv. He was doing improv in college. And after college, he joined the Second City Conservatory program, which at the Second City, if you grew up in Chicago, you take improv classes at Second City. Everybody and their mom goes there. I mean, it's a great place to build confidence, to learn how to do improv, improvise like that, team building, all that. Improv is great. I still do improv with my students. Improv is awesome. And he's doing improv at Second City, and I'm like, wait, I know how to do that. I can do that. I can get back into improv. Improv was my first love, performing arts in high school. I can get back into improv. So I auditioned for Second City Conservatory. Took me a few tries to get in because that audition process is just brutal. But I ultimately got into the conservatory, started taking improv classes, having a blast. I'm like, this is every bit as fun as wrestling was for me, but I'm not walking away with bruises and headaches and cracked teeth. So loving improv, still teaching, taking improv classes, but not a lot of money in improv. First of all, it's like impossible to make money. You pay money to do improv. You pay for the classes. If you want to get paid as an improviser, you either have to teach the classes or get a big break as an actor and start, moving to LA, doing commercials and movies and stuff. Because SNL, I don't know if you know SNL, they've got what, 20 people on their cast out of how many hundreds of thousands of people around the country who are dreaming of getting up there. So I started getting frustrated with improv because I just wasn't really seeing a path forward with it, wasn't having a ton of success. I remember I got cut from the conservatory after level 2. They make you re-audition to get into level 3. They kind of do a little bit of culling there, and I got cut. I did get to re-audition. They do give you second chances and third chances. I think I did 2 more auditions before I finally decided this isn't working out. I had wanted to try stand-up. Stand-up and improv are 2 different, forms of 2 different disciplines of comedy in Chicago. Always wanted to try stand-up. And so I did. Started going to open mics. I remember my first open mic set was at Cole's Bar on the west side of Chicago. I think it's in Logan Square. It's still going. This was like 10 years ago. The Cole's open mic is still going. I believe it's still on Wednesday nights. It's a great spot. If you've ever wanted to try stand-up and you live in Chicago, go to Cole's. Check it out. I did my first set there, instantly hooked, again, fell in love instantly. I guess this is a common theme for me when I try something creative and performing. Loved it. So I started developing my act as a stand-up comic. And my wife and I moved to the west suburbs, and I started going to this club called the Comedy Shrine in Aurora, Illinois. And I became a regular there. Every Monday night I would go up and do my 5 minutes working on different bits. And the host of that open mic, the producer and host, happened to be stepping down at the time, and I was a regular. So he was like, hey, do you want to take over? And I was like, hell yes, of course. Are you kidding me? So for the next 5 years, I ran the Monday night open mic at the Comedy Shrine. It was a very popular open mic. We got an audience every week. We would have an audience of non-comedians who were just there to, hang out and watch the show, those are the golden geese for comedy open mics. If you can get an audience that are not comedians who are just there to laugh, that's amazing. And we would get tons of comedians too. We would get anywhere from like 30 to 50 comedians at this open mic. So every Monday I was there, and I was also working my way up on the stand-up scene. I was hosting shows on the weekends. I was the host. I was doing little like showcase spots here and there, you know, making a tiny bit of cash for doing like 10 minutes at a time of stand-up. And I eventually worked my way up to the feature level, which in stand-up comedy, the feature level is basically where you're an opener and you do anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes. You open for the headlining act. And I worked my way up there, worked really hard. This was before I started becoming like a teacher comedian. I was just talking about my life at that point. I was writing pretty generic jokes. I wasn't a teacher comedian back then. Worked my way up to feature level, and I was kind of stuck there. Didn't really have what it took. I needed that extra spark, that extra catalyst to kind of get up to the headliner level. I was missing something, and what I was missing, turns out, was social media. Always loved social media. I was really active on MySpace back in the early 2000s. MySpace and Zanga. I don't know if anyone remembers Zanga. That's a deep cut right there. Zanga and LiveJournal. Social media for me was a way for me to come out of my shell. Like I said earlier, I was always very awkward, struggled with making friends. Social media helped me make new friends. It also helped me kind of deepen my bond with my existing friends because I was able to communicate better with text on the screen, with pictures. I was able to really express myself in a way that I just didn't feel like I could do over the phone and in person. So social media was a godsend for me. I love social media. I was already very active on social media when I started my page, The Angry Gym Teacher. And my page started off as just a way for me to communicate with parents and other community members what was going on in my classroom. My page, it was not The Angry Gym Teacher at first. It was Mr. Feline's Gym. And this was back when social media was a nice place. Crazy, right? Some of you might not remember. Social media wasn't always a cesspool of misinformation and harassment and fake bot accounts. It's so bad now. But back then it was so nice. People used social media to keep in touch with friends. They posted pictures of what was going on in their lives. They were making plans on these trips, posting pictures and videos. So it was a nice place. So I didn't really have any qualms. Didn't have a second thought about making a social media page for my classroom and posting pictures and videos of what was going on in there, what my students were up to. Everyone loved it. My followers, I just had a few hundred followers, and it was all, local community members and my friends and family. Hold on, I got to pause here real quick. All right, and we're back. Sorry about that. I have to pause here periodically as people come in and interrupt me in my top secret location. Social media was a nice place, and that's how my page started. And eventually I got to the point, though, where I transferred to a new school. I left my post in Chicago Public Schools. I was teaching on the West Side. I was there for 6 years. I still miss it. I still think about my students. I still think about that neighborhood. Made a lot of good memories there, grew a lot as a teacher, learned a lot of stuff, made a lot of mistakes, but ultimately fell in love with being a PE teacher there. And my wife and I had moved to the suburbs, and my commute was brutal. I was spending like almost 3 hours in the car every day. So I needed a different placement. I needed somewhere a little bit closer to home. So I got a placement in the suburbs, and I was faced with the question of what do I do with my social media page? Because it's all tied to my old school. Do I tie it to my new school now? This was 2017. Some things started happening on social media. It wasn't such a nice place anymore. I don't know if you remember what happened in 2016. But yeah, when the Chicago Cubs won the World Series, it threw everything off. It was bad. That was the event that changed everything. I love doing that joke. I do that joke a lot in professional development sessions when I talk about technology and social media. I'll be like, what do we know happened in 2016? What happened in 2016 that changed social media? And I pause and I look around, and everyone gets so uncomfortable. They're like, oh my God, is he really going there? Is he going to get political? I don't like when he gets political. And then I'm like, that's right. The Chicago Cubs won the World Series and set us on a timeline of hell. It hasn't been the same since. I can say that. I'm a Cubs fan. So I decided, you know what? I'm a comedian now. I'm doing comedy. So why don't I just change it to a comedy page? There's a lot of teacher comedy pages on social media, but there's not a lot of physical education teacher comedy pages with a focus on PE. So I changed the name of my page to The Angry Gym Teacher on Facebook, and I posted memes. I didn't use my real name at that point, didn't post videos or pictures of myself. I just posted memes. And I think I gained maybe a few thousand followers just posting memes. It was fun. People were like pleasantly surprised. Oh, look at this. It's a comedy page for PE teachers. This is awesome. Started sharing it in all the PE groups, PE Central, all those. I'm banned from PE Central, by the way. That's another topic for another episode. But so that was a few years. I'm posting memes, trying to slowly gain followers. And then the pandemic happened, COVID-19. We're stuck at home. I am a virtual PE teacher. If you taught during that time period, you can relate. Teaching virtually over Zoom, not a great time, not fun, pretty ridiculous. You know, I'm writing lesson plans for these kids who are in their bedroom, in their kitchen, they're anywhere they can find space. I'm looking at them through a webcam, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna do jumping jacks now. We're gonna play a game where we're gonna try to fling our shoe into a laundry basket. So go find a laundry basket, or we're gonna play catch with ourselves with a ball. If you don't have a ball, I'm gonna teach you how to make a ball out of a wad of socks. Just ridiculous stuff. But we did our best. But I mean, it was ridiculous, but it was funny. I'm thinking to myself, if people just knew what I was doing right now, this is actually kind of hilarious. So I decided I'm going to make this little sketch about teaching virtual PE class with Mr. Feline. That was my first viral video. I posted it on Facebook, and it just instantly went by. People ate it up. They were like, oh my God, I can so relate to this. This is so crazy what we're doing. This is exactly what it's like. Look, the kid who's too close to the webcam and you can't see him, the kid who's off camera, the kid who's just sitting there eating breakfast, like all this ridiculous stuff. And people were like, you need to post this on TikTok. TikTok is the new thing for videos like this. This would be perfect. So I did. I started a TikTok page, Angry Gym Teacher, and I eventually moved over to Instagram, Angry Gym Teacher. I'm now trying to get started on YouTube, Angry Gym Teacher. I'm all over every different social media platform. I've been working, growing, learning how to edit videos, trying to post every day and growing and growing and growing. And then when I got to the point where I crossed 100,000 followers on Instagram, that's when board teachers reached out to me, which I had actually reached out to them months prior. But I guess I didn't land on their radar until I crossed that threshold and became, this quote unquote social media star, I guess, even though 100,000 followers is not a lot. It is a lot. I'm grateful. But at the same time, it's that voice in my head that's going, that's not even close to 1 million. It's never enough. And I try not to fall into that trap mentally, but that's where I am most of the time. I'm like, it's never enough. When am I going to hit 1 million? I need 1 million. I need 1 million so I can make some more money. We need an addition on our house. I need more space, whatever. But board teachers reached out, and I joined the Board Teachers Comedy Tour. And that's when I really started focusing my stand-up act on my job. I realized that, when I'm on stage and I'm talking about my job, the audience really perks up. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing to go on stage. It's very therapeutic to go on stage and tell your story, talk about your life, vent about, your job. People can relate to that. Even non-teachers can relate to it. They can relate to, my job. This is what happened today at my job. Everyone loves it. And I loved it. It made me feel more confident. It made me feel better about being a teacher. I started enjoying being a teacher more because I realized I'm getting all this material from my job. This is great. I love it. And I fell more and more in love with stand-up comedy, more and more in love with teaching. Being a comedian, getting up on stage, developing those skills has made me a better teacher, and vice versa. Being a teacher, I think, makes me a better comedian. Like if I can be up in front of 40 adolescent kids who are thinking about Fortnite and I can get their attention and entertain them enough to the point where they're willing to do these crazy activities and games that I come up with, then I can get up in front of 100, 1,000 people in an audience and I can entertain. Like it's a great relationship, like symbiotic relationship between the two jobs. But here's the thing. It's hard to do both. Like right now, I'm burning the candle at both ends, y'all. I'm exhausted because I'm trying to do too much and I'm trying to do all these different tasks and I can't really give 100% to any of them. I want to be a teacher. I don't want to quit teaching. I don't want to. I would love to not have to teach full time anymore. That would be awesome. If I could be a part-time PE teacher somewhere or maybe even just be a sub, that'd be great. I can't afford to do that right now because I can't afford to take the pay cut and I need the insurance. And then being a comedian, I'm trying to book these tour dates. I'll talk about those in a minute here. But that's a full-time job too, trying to promote those things and sell tickets in other states, other cities where I don't really know anybody. That's hard. That's a full-time gig. Being a content creator now, I mean, I'm spending so much time on videos, which is fine. I love doing it, but it's a time vampire. It's a time goblin. When I'm sitting editing a video, it takes a long time to get it just right, because my standards are a lot higher now than when I first started. I want it to be good. I want it to be perfect. I want it to sound good. I want the jokes to make sense. I want to go viral, because that's how you grow. And then the podcast thing, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. But again, this is something that could be a full-time job. People do this full-time. They record podcasts. They book. They promote. It's a show. This is a show. And then I just finished writing a children's book. I finally finished the manuscript. I need to send it off to my illustrator, my friend who's Rebecca. She's my illustrator who does a lot of my artwork for my merch. She's going to be illustrating my book, so I'm excited about that. But that could be a full-time gig if I wanted it to be. So I'm doing too much right now. I'm doing my best to try and prioritize. I'm glad that I finally sat down to record this debut episode of Gym Class Podcast. That's my story. And I have a few different segment ideas, a few different ideas for guests. Please email me, gymclasspod@gmail.com, if you want to contribute to those ideas. Because, again, we're still brainstorming, very much in the brainstorming phase. One of the segments I want to do, though, is called Nerd Alert. Because I'm a huge nerd. I'm not a jock. I'm not an athlete. I work with athletes. That's my field. I'm a PE teacher. I do a lot of coaching. But ultimately, in my heart, I'm a huge nerd. And I like to bridge that gap. I think that everybody should feel like they have permission to be a nerd about something. It doesn't have to be traditional nerd topics. You could be a nerd for baseball statistics, baseball cards. It doesn't have to be something like science fiction or fantasy. So I want to do a segment called Nerd Alert, where I invite people on to kind of vent about something that they're a nerd for. And I happen to be a nerd for Star Wars and Star Trek. Both of them. Stop trying to make me choose. I'm tired of people coming to me and being like, oh, so do you like Star Wars or Star Trek? What's your preference? No. I love them both. I don't like either of them. I love them both. I love Star Trek. Star Trek is pure science fiction. It's rooted in realities. That Star Trek takes place in our galaxy, planet Earth. It's a future vision for planet Earth where we've stopped arguing over Cracker Barrel logos and pride flags and all this stupid stuff that we argue about. And we've embraced the idea of exploring the galaxy. There's other species. It's very positive. It's awesome. And it's very zen for me. I feel like it's so relaxed. I love to watch Star Trek at night. And I love the old Star Trek shows. They're very slow paced, low budget, very philosophical, great writing, great acting. Love those, very relaxing. But I also love the new stuff. The new stuff is Star Trek Strange New Worlds is my favorite show right now. That's every episode's like an action film. There's great special effects, fast paced. I love it all. But I also love Star Wars. I am deeply in love, passionately in love with Star Wars. And I've loved Star Wars a lot longer. I've loved Star Wars since I was a kid. When I was a kid in the 90s, the Star Trek Special Edition came out where they were re-released in theaters. I sat front row for each of those 3 films. Love Star Wars. And Star Wars is more fantasy. Yeah, it takes place in space. There's spaceships and hyperdrive and crazy technology, but there's also the Force, the Jedi, the Sith. That's magic. That's like wizard stuff. So Star Wars to me is less science fiction, more fantasy. They are 2 completely different franchises. So you should like both. If you like science fiction, if you're a nerd, you shouldn't have to choose. Stop asking me to choose. All right, so that's my rant. That's my edition, okay, of Nerd Alert. And in the future, when I have guests on here, I'm going to ask them to nerd out over something, whatever it is, whatever their chosen topic is. I got to get out of here. I got to hit the stop button. I got to get back to my, well, I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing because it's a secret. It's a virtual studio. I could be anywhere. Gymclasspod@gmail.com is my email address. Please reach out to me. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Please like and subscribe. Smash the subscribe button. Do that now, please. And also rate it. Rate it 5 stars. Not 3, not 4.5. Rate it 5. Even if you thought it was 4, please just this once, dude, give me 5, okay? 5 stars. And then come see me come follow me, Angry Gym Teacher, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube, and Threads. And then come see me live. I'll be in Chicago at the Chicago Improv. I'm opening for another comedian named Educator Andrea. If you follow me on Instagram, chances are you probably follow her too. It's going to be a great show. That's Saturday, September 6th. Sunday, September 21st, I'm coming to Phoenix, Arizona at Mic Drop Comedy. Never been to Phoenix before. Very excited about that one. So please, angrygymteacher.com for tickets for all of those shows. And thank you for listening to the debut episode of Gym Class Podcast. Have a great day.
Your test is over. Remember to run in a straight line. And run as long as possible.